You're listening to the Patient Experience Blueprint with Intibio.
Hello and welcome everyone to a special edition of the Patient Experience Blueprint. Today we are excited to have our guest on to talk about his book, Uncomplicated Business. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Farran Howard, founder of Dentaltown, practice owner, and author extraordinaire. Without further ado, the man, the myth, the legend, Howard, thank you for coming on our show.
Hey, it's good to be on the show, man. I can't believe you got 1 in 5 oral surgeons in the United States using your project. How cool is that?
It definitely has been an awesome journey, and we're super thankful to all the amazing clients that help guide our project roadmap to really meet the needs of complicated specialists. But that's not why we're here today. Today, we're here to talk a little bit about your book. So I actually spent some time reading your book, and I don't want to start off with flattery. However, your chapter on avoiding fraud and the practical steps to protect your practice should be a mandatory reading for anyone starting the clinic. Hopefully you didn't learn this the hard way, but I am excited to dive deeper into you today on this subject, as well as other stories and tidbits from your book. So once again, thank you for coming on, and let's kick this off. Starting off, I'd like to begin with the big picture. A lot of business owners feel like they just keep getting more complicated as they grow. Is that just the price of growth, or are we accidentally creating chaos for ourselves?
Growth does not require chaos. Biology grows and stays elegant. A tooth erupts with precision. Most complexity in business is layered on by reaction instead of design. In dentistry, we had PPO, services, software, and people without redefining what business we are actually in. Chaos is usually drift, not destiny. I think that we're in a new AI era. When I got out of dental school in 87, and then the first thing that really affected me exogenously was the internet revolution. And it was about 94 to 2000. And it changed everything. And I feel like with AI, we're in that same 94 to 2000. And what I mean by that is 94 to 2000, the Magnificent Seven were 4 stocks. It was Intel and Microsoft. They called that Wintel. And then Dell Computer sold all the laptops, and Cisco sold all the routers. And that was the Magnificent Seven. And then in 2000, the whole stock market crashed. And Amazon, if you would have put $10,000 in Amazon after the crash, what would it be today? Tens of millions of dollars. And I think it's funny right now the biggest AI valuation is at NVIDIA. That's the chip. You don't know anybody who has a NVIDIA chip. You don't know anybody who wants a NVIDIA chip. That's like Intel chip from 94 to 2000. The chip is useless. It's the companies built on those chips. And the companies like yours, the companies like mine, that hasn't even started. And I think this AI, the one thing it's going to do is start getting rid of complexity, because I think as people start adopting AI, the first thing they're going to do is start asking themselves, why are we doing what we do? You remember that book Tim Ferriss wrote, The 4-Hour Work Week? And he basically argued that people come in and work 40 hours, but they actually only do shit for 4 hours, and the rest is just like take Opus 4.6. So many of what you're doing is just all these tasks. I talked to a real estate broker this morning, and he's a real estate guy, and he had 3 people in his office. And one person was monitoring all the new properties set up on the multi-listing format. And another one was trying to figure out their formula. Their formula was they like to bottom feed. They like to put in a value of exactly 2/3 of what the house is worth in case you're desperate and you need to sell. And they had another person calling all the brokers, all that stuff. He spent one weekend on a new Claude app, the 4.6, the personal deal. And now he's automated all of that. He's reduced 3 of his, he let go of all of his employees, and he went from buying and selling 2 houses a month to 4. So he says, I'm going to go from he made about 98,000 last year. His goal is 200,000 this year, and he has 3 less employees. And I think so much of all this complexity is we do so many things and we don't even ask why. Another great one to look at is like the insurance. Like when I go to the Marriott and I go check in, I mean, they ask you an exact number of questions. I don't know if it's 6 or 7 or 8, but this is exactly what we got to know to do this transaction. They ask it and they're done. You go turn in a $70,000 car to Hertz Rent a Car, and a guy comes out with a little deal, and all he needs to know is the mileage, how much gas, me to sign something. And then you go into a dental office, and that poor lady opens up Dentrix or Eaglesoft. There's like 40,000 things you can do. And I guarantee you don't need to do 39,388 of them. And I think AI is gonna, I think when people say, what computer software should I use to run my oral surgeon office? You already got 1 in 5 oral surgeons. I started to myself, well, what the hell does an oral surgeon actually need to do? And you could start writing those things down and prompting Claude Point 4.6 to write your practice management software so that everybody can get rid of all this massive complexity and start focusing on what are we really doing. It's kind of like when I was little, my mom, we were Catholic, so you'd always have to do these they're called retreats. Have you ever heard of a Catholic retreat? And so after school, when everybody goes home Friday, you walk over to the where the priest is, and you and 3 or 4 other boys spend the whole weekend with the priest. And what I used to love about it is it just broke your pattern. You weren't going to be riding your bike and playing ball and doing all those things. And you had to sit there and be alone with your thoughts and be thinking. And I always found retreats to be incredibly reflective. And in fact, I got to tell you something funny. When the first 10 years, I went to daily mass. The first 10 years, every single day was in Latin. So as you're a kid, you don't know one word he said. And then they switched it to English, which my mom thought was the end of the world. And I thought, well, what's wrong with just using the language the people speak? And I actually liked the Latin better, because the Latin better, it was like meditation. You would go there and you would just zone out for 30, because you didn't know one thing, and it's all, for half an hour while you're just sitting there thinking, well, what do I got to do today? And on that spelling test, I had 10 words. Can you remember what the 10 words were? Can you? And then I remember I'd be at mass, running for my backpack to find out what the 2 spelling words are that I couldn't even remember. It's like I not only did I got to spell them right, I couldn't even remember what words. I mean, but it just gave you this massive focus. And I think AI is going to be the reflection of the whole world, because now we're going to have a tool sit there and rip through everything you're doing. And yeah, complexity. I mean, it's chaos out there. It's chaos. I mean, it's completely chaos. I used to have a joke that at the end of the day, the hygienist says, I think I'm going to clip the patient napkin onto the head deal. That way, tomorrow when I see my first patient, I'll be all ready to go. And the dental assistant says, you know what? My first patient orders a crown seat. I think I'm going to go in the back and get the crown from the lab, and I'm going to put it in the room. So tomorrow I'll be all ready to go. And then the front office, they look at like they need to return 100 calls. They need to listen to all these voice messages. They need to send all this. And they say, tonight, I wonder if it's going to be vodka or wine. I mean, they there's the complexity up there is just insanity. And there's, they're not getting any help from the software. They're not getting any help from, they're not getting any help. So yeah, I think complexity is not the price of growth. And I think that there's going to be, AI is going to eliminate a lot of chaos.
Yeah, you pulled on a couple of things there that I want to, magnify or circle around to. I think number one, you hit the nail on the hammer. At the end of the day, growth does not create chaos or complexity. It highlights it. That chaos and complexity existed when you were a single doc with 2 hygienists. You just didn't realize it because maybe you had more time on your hands, or to your point, you're not aware of what you're not aware of. And it's only until you start to hire, 4 hygienists and 2 associates where these problems are threefolded. And now you are starting to see the consequences of this chaos not being resolved when you were smaller. So I definitely think, it definitely magnifies the chaos and the complexity, but it existed at one location. It's just being now multiplied as you're scaling. So I think, someone really wise in business told me you can't scale and optimize at the same time. You need to first focus on your core business, what's most important to your point. What can we optimize our processes, our workflows, our standard operating procedures around these requirements? And then finally, how can we use AI to then audit our workflows to see where is there redundancy, where is there slowdowns or duplicate entry to make sure we can streamline those processes as much as possible. So I definitely think you hit on the three big points there. Do you want to add anything else?
Yeah, I do want to add anything else because the one thing to get rid of all the complexity and to have the most success, any way you measure it, is the amount of time they spend their prototype. Like McDonald's spent 20 years on their first 12 locations, and then the next 20 years, they rolled out 20,000. They didn't roll up. They didn't go buy 20,000 hamburger stores and roll them up under one system called McDonald's. They spent 20 years on their McDonald's prototype and then rolled it out. I see DSOs the exact opposite of McDonald's. They go buy, they'll raise $10 million and they'll go buy 10 offices doing $1 million each. They'll say, oh, look, man, we went from 0 to 10 million. Well, you have 10 million of debt. So it's not like you did 10 million, you bought 10 million and you got 10 offices. They all use different software, different suppliers, different systems. It's just a complete chaos. I would have rather you taken that $10 million and stayed 10 years in one location. And look at the one location deal. You can grow that one location. I mean, I know office in Bakersfield that does 20 million a year. I know a pediatric dentist who does 30 million a year. What you go to a DSO convention and the old bragging right, well, how many locations do you have? And if I have 20 and Josh only has 10, I'm the man and you're a boy. And then you come back next year and say, well, I got 30 locations. You're saying it's all locations. Where does this even come from? I don't even know where it's come from. It's like,
well, I do know where it comes from because it's in all business, right? I was talking to a friend of mine where it's like, what is the least intrusive, most publicly available information you can ask someone about their business without it seeming like you're prying? And for most businesses, it's how many employees do you have? Oh, you have 100 employees? You're a big business. You must be successful. It's like, I'm actually way more interested in the guy that's got 10 employees and yet they can run $10 million because it's not about, how many employees you have. It's what's your revenue per head count. And to your point, locations is kind of the same thing. It's like, it doesn't matter how many locations you have. It's like, what's your revenue per location?
Remember Craigslist? Craigslist had like 20 employees and they were doing $1 billion a month.
Yeah, Plenty of Fish is an online dating site from Vancouver. And the CEO sold for just shy of $1 billion with like 14 employees. That's the miracle of business. That's removing all the complexity and having a high potency, high talented team completely aligned to the mission. And that's really, I think, to your point, HR challenges are because you didn't resolve them in creating good values, creating good hiring process, creating good structure throughout your day. Those are kind of consequences that start to rear their ugly head when you start to scale.
When we're talking to dental students, and that's my mission, because I feel like since I'm an old man getting ready for my dirt nap, that it's my job to take everything I learned and tell our replacements as they're coming out of school. And I really appreciated that when I was in dental school and these old dogs from private practice would come in and lecture to us or come in and help and tell us what it's like in the real world. I thought those were priceless experience. And it's sad that dental schools now, almost all their faculty now has to be full-time. So now they don't get any of the part-time real world guys. It's the guy coming in 1 day a week that knows 10 times more than all your instructors combined about real world dentistry. But I would tell them when they scale that they come out, they just open up their own office. They only need about the size of a 2-car garage space. You only need 1 chair. You don't need any employees. I mean, dentists can go in there and do $1,000 by themselves without a dental assistant. I mean, you didn't have a dental assistant in 4 years of dental school, and they can do that $1,000. And if they're in a 250 square foot suite and they rent and they have 1 chair location, I mean, they could have overhead of $100 a day and go in there and not be able to do under 1,000 a day. And then that office, as you get busy and you need another chair, you want to scale. And you never need another location. I mean, to me, I thought the best dental offices were all in Asia. They were dental hospitals. There's 12 dental specialties. They'd have emergency room on the first 3 or 4 floors. They'd have a floor for each specialty. The owner would be on the top. I podcast interviewed him on the top of this thing. One guy was telling me that he bought the tallest building in, I think it was Cambodia or and he's in his town. And he says everybody in Cambodia knows this is a dental hospital, so they could be 3 or 4 hours away. They can fall down, break their teeth. They could be here from Japan or China or the United States. They could be going to see Angkor Wat, and they know when they flew in to Cambodia that there was a dental hospital there, and that's where everybody goes. So this guy's been on one location his entire life, and you can't talk to anybody about DSOs without hearing, well, Rick Workman has 1,800 locations. Okay, well, this dental hospital is 18 floors tall. They can do the same money. One might make more net income than the other. I mean, so a lot of what we do is culture. You go to a dentist in a small town of like 200,000. First thing he'll start telling you, well, I'm on the south side. Sometimes I think about opening up a dental office on the north side. And then you come back 10 years later and he's got 4 locations, north, south, east, west. And that gives him some scale. But he does have 4 locations. He has 4, he has 4 obstructions to communication. He has a lot of clutter. He has a lot of chaos. I'm like, well, you could have just gone downtown in this town and built a 5-story building and called it dental hospital or whatever. But I think AI is going to change everything. I think it's and you got to remember when the Industrial Revolution started, when they built the first steam engine, it took 75 years before the first factory got a steam engine. AI, I mean, yeah, we've been talking about, I remember when I was a freshman at Creighton, they were talking about AI from IBM back in 1950, but it was all talk. And it finally got real for me, September 2023, when my son showed me ChatGPT, and I realized, okay, this is an inflection point. And not only has it massively scaled itself in 2 years, I remember when ChatGPT came out, it used to say, oh yeah, someday we'll be writing all the code. Well, that took until just like a month ago before that's a real thing. I mean, it does. Now you meet lots of great programmers who no longer write code. I mean, it does write all the code, but I remember when they came out with images, you couldn't even get it to spell dentistry correct on 10 tries. Now it gets it right every time. So I think AI is scaling, and I think the next 10 years we'll see every single business and country turned upside down for the better. And what the Industrial Revolution took 200 years to do, I think AI is going to do it in about 20. And right now I saw a disturbing article from the Wall Street Journal that said of the Fortune 500, 95% of the companies on their AI are still just buying software, like buying your AI services, like in Intivio. They don't have their own AI full stack software developer engineer who's saying, forget what Intivia can do for my office. I'm going to go around my office and just start seeing what could we be doing faster, easier, better, quicker. Do we really have to do payroll on the 1st and 15th? How about we do it once a month and we automatically deposit it? And, instead of payroll on 2 periods, make it 1. Instead of the end of the month and you can survive, how about we'll do it the first of the month? We'll prepay you, whatever. I mean, I just think that every system you have is just up for the 5-year-old test. Explain to your 5-year-old why daddy's dental office does it this way. And if you can't explain it to your 5-year-old, you probably can't explain it to anyone. I mean, Warren Buffett used to always have his deal. When I was a freshman at Creighton, Warren Buffett from the Oracle of Omaha came in and lectured to our class. And he told us, he says, take out a 5x7 business card and a number 2 pencil. If you can't explain to me what the hell you're doing and what is your business, what do you do, and how do you make money? If you can't explain it to me on a recipe card, you don't even know. You don't know. And if you need a PowerPoint presentation and you need 30 talking points, you don't know. And you got to go back to a dental office. When someone walks in the office, what are you doing that Hertz Rent-A-Car doesn't need to do when you're returning a $78,000 Toyota Tundra? That's a pretty damn important transaction. What are you doing? What is your goal? When you call a phone, the only thing that matters is you convert that phone call to a human sitting in a dental chair. So it's a simple conversion. Phone calls, unique phone calls to appointments. And if you're 1 out of 3, I mean, I could hire anybody to give me 1 out of 3. So why would I be giving you a raise? You say you want a raise because you've been doing what 1 out of every 3 people on earth can do? I mean, no, no. 1 out of 3 is never going to do anything right because we're called humans and they're going to be smoking a Marlboro Red cigarette while drinking a margarita, telling you how diabetes runs in their family. And you can tell them that no one's ever ran in their family because they're all drinking and smoking and no one's, you know what I mean? I mean, so 1 out of 3 is going to do nothing right. But you can convert that other 1 out of 3. And that's what the DSOs are doing with their call centers. They can get 2/3. They get 2/3 of the people they call to get their butt sitting in a chair. So then once they got their butt in the chair, now we're the second level, you present the treatment. And if you present the treatment and 1 out of 3 people will buy, well, 1 out of 3 people would buy anything because you're a dentist and they've done an author search, their tooth's broke, and you're saying they got to do this. 1 out of 3 will always agree. 1 out of 3 are never going to agree with anything you say because they're crazy, batshit human beings, and half of them live in your family tree. You know what I mean? And then the other 1 1/3, they've got some questions. You can close them. They've got like, how much is it? What's it going to cost? What will it look like? When are you going to do it? You know, whatever. They got a deal and you can close that. So if you can take an average dental office that converts 1 out of 3 phone calls to a butt in the chair, and you can train them, record the phone calls, and convert that to getting 2 out of 3, you just doubled their practice. And then when they come in, when 3 people come in, if you get from 1 person accepting a treatment plan to 2 people, now you just doubled your revenue. I mean, dentistry is not complicated. So then you got to start asking yourself, well, what is all this stuff that your receptionists are doing while phone calls are going to voicemail and people aren't getting converted into the chair? And she's spending all this time on, calling an insurance company. Insurance company software, I think, is the funniest, where people are trying to make this AI software like, oh, are you tired of calling the insurance company to see what the benefits are and get a pre-authorization and a pre-approval? Look, the insurance company doesn't want to pay. They don't want to pay. They want to collect the premium.
They're not incentivized to pay you quicker. They're incentivized to slow it down and make it harder.
Yeah. So if the lamb wants to come out with some AI psychology program that's going to convince the lion not to eat it, you buy it. I'm not going to buy it.
Well, let's continue on the train of things that slow us down. So, you argue that growth often creates unnecessary complexity. What are something in business that helps them grow? But what is actually slowing them down?
Okay, you sent me these 10 questions. Here's what I wrote. Addition before optimization. Dentists add implants before mastering Crown and Bridge. They open a second location before the first one runs like a clean prototype. They add marketing before fixing case acceptance. They add marketing before training their person answering the phone to just every time they ask a question that you convert it. Like, they'll say, well, are you open? Yes, we're open right now. In fact, we're at the corner of 48th Street in LA. You know where Safeway is in Ahwatukee? You know that Chase Bank? We're right next to. Where are you at now? Where are you at work? Are you at home? How long would it take you to get here? Do you take insurance? Yeah. Do you have your insurance card? Yeah. Well, bring it on down. Bring it. Don't start asking them what it is and filling out. Well, oh yeah, you got insurance. What is it? It's Blue Cross and Blue Shield. They don't even have dental. Okay. Well, yeah. Well, bring it on down. Let's get in here. I mean, people buy stuff all the time without insurance money. Even if they have insurance, it's $1,000 max. I mean, if they got a toothache, it's already $2,500. I mean, we're already beyond insurance if it's even worth it for them to drive over to your office. Addition feels like momentum. Subtraction feels risky, but addition multiplies complexity. Subtraction multiplies focus. That's what we were talking about on the question before, that, that you start adding stuff, like marketing. I think almost all marketing is, I wouldn't say a waste of money, but it's definitely not optimized. I mean, you're marketing your dental practice, but you're not recording your phone calls.
I mean, if you're converting 3/4 of every single inbound phone call from a non-existing patient into a new patient, I mean, keep on doing marketing. But if it's 40%, you have some optimization to do. I think, to our point earlier, is growth often magnifies complexity or chaos that already existed. You were just too small or too preoccupied or busy to even notice it. And now that you've scaled that problem, it's becoming a real pain.
But here's what you got to understand. I mean, I've done this for a lot of years, and the dentists always believe their numbers, and they're pulled right out of their ass. I mean, they'll tell you, well, what do you do? Oh, I collect $1 million. What is your overhead? I'd say, probably about, maybe 60%. And then you get there and they collected 712,000 and their overhead is 81%. They'll say that they convert 3 out of 4 of their people to call. They convert 3 out of 4 to a scheduled appointment. You're like, that's amazing. Show me the report. Oh, I don't have a report. I just know. Oh, you just know. Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
buddy. You just know.
And that's only great if it's 3 out of 4 phone calls that you booked and become completed patients, not 3 out of 4 booked appointments. If you're booking 4 appointments, only 3 show up. I mean, you probably had 10 phone calls that before 1 actually booked.
Well, what I love about dentists is, the only 4 pillars of intelligence, I think, or education is math, physics, chemistry, biology. I mean, your destiny. I mean, and the language we speak, the official scientific language is English. So you got to know English. And then math is just the language for science. So then it just starts with physics, chemistry, and biology. In dentistry, we're humans, in biology, it's a biology play. But the thing is, I know their training is so intense. I mean, they've all had calculus, they've all had physics, they've all had biology, they know if you ever show the exact equation or the format or what's going on in the dental to the dentist, she'll always make the right answer. I've never shown someone a report who's got a doctorate in dental surgery and they go, oh, well, gosh, what do you think I should do? This isn't your market. They're dentists. They know exactly what to do. They just don't have any real data. They got 5,000 paper charts. They don't know how many of them have been in the last 6 months. They got computer stuff most dentists can't even check out a patient. You say, okay, well, you've been on Dentrix for 20 years. Yeah. Josh DeVry, he just finished his clean exam and x-ray. Go ahead, check him out on Dentrix. Oh, I have other people that do that for me. I got the little people up front. The little people up front do that for me. It's like, so you can't do it. So they're always delegating. They never roll up their details. And then you look at the greatest companies ever built, like take Citigroup. That boy was a little Brooklyn boy, and he got a job, and he just asked he just asked when he got a job there. He says, well, when my mom goes to the butcher and she writes him a check for $1 for some beef, how does the dollar get out of her checking account into his checking account? And nobody at Citigroup could explain it to him. And he just had to keep going around. He had to go to check clearing centers. Now, this was happening at the same time the computer revolution was rolling out. And by the time he figured out how it actually worked, and he realized, well, God dang, we could do this on a Dell computer 100 times faster and this and that. And so what that Brooklyn boy is an example of is when someone starts in the mailroom and actually tries to understand every step of the process all the way to the top and just uses the 5 graders intelligence, they can move mountains. But the dentist doesn't want any of those details. He doesn't want to check out a patient. He doesn't want to do his accounting. He doesn't want to figure out what the difference between a statement of income and a balance sheet and a statement of cash flow is. And he just delegates. But then he'll go sit down at the Pankey Institute for a week, just falling in this free flow state, wanting to learn the infinitesimal amounts of occlusion. And you're like, dude, that's like getting drunk. That's like getting high. You just go down there and escape on this weird journey of occlusion, and you can't answer any of the businesses and any of the questions of your business. In fact, you can't even tell me, why are you learning occlusion? I'm looking at your data, and the most requested new procedure was Invisalign, and you had like 17 of those last month. No one asked to have their occlusion checked, and you're at the Pankey Institute for a week. And I'm not dissing Pankey. I love Pankey. I went down there for 5 weeks. I loved it, but I had it in checks and balance with a lot of other stuff. And I think with AI, I think that it's time to start questioning everything you've ever done, right down to, why are you taking this insurance? Why do you have 10 employees and you're doing $1 million with 82% overhead to make 150 when I can show you 100 single offices where the dentist doesn't have an employee, which is very common in Singapore. And you just come in there and this is their office phone, their cell phone. They got a chair. They got the deals, and they do the cleaning, exam, and x-ray. You needed 2 fillings, and the whole bill was $700, and you put on your debit card, and his overhead was 50, and he takes $650 and goes and
I met with a dentist in India, and he was telling me the same thing. It's like, no, I'm the reception. Like, I operate like a physiotherapist or a massage therapist. I don't have a front desk. I do everything myself. And yeah, it works really well. The margins are there. I think to your point, unless you really understand your processes, unless you understand the how come behind everything you do, it's really hard to differentiate busyness with productivity. So I want to kind of make it personal with this audience. For dental practices, everyone's busy all the time. There's patients, phones, to your point, insurance, charts. You talk about confusing activity with progress. What are some of the early signs of a team being busy, but not really moving the needle, not being productive?
Well, the first obvious thing is you're not getting rich. I mean, if you're a doctor in the richest country in America and you're working your ass off a lot all day, every day, you should be baller rich. You shouldn't be asking how much that car costs. You should buy it. But see, a dentist would rather be busy losing $20 on 2 fillings done by a PPO because he feels busy. He doesn't realize that if they would have canceled that patient, I mean, if you said to me, do you want to do 2 MOD composites on 2 or 3 and lose $20, or do you just want to take out a $20 bill and light it on fire? Well, I'd rather just light a $20 bill on fire than do 2 MODs. I'd rather pull 4 wisdom teeth for free I'd rather do a molar endo for free, because a molar endo to me, it's like play golf. Would you rather play some magnificent Pebble Beach golf course, or would you rather do miniature golf? To me, a root canal on number 8 is miniature golf. I mean, I want a challenge. I mean, wisdom teeth and occlusion, that's no fun. Impacted wisdom. So it depends on what you want to do. But when you're doing what you want to do and you're not making any money, well, you should know that you're doing charity dentistry. But man, if you're working your ass off and you're a dentist in America, if you're a dentist in the richest country in the world and you're working your ass off and you don't have a lot of money, you're full chairs and empty clarity. The schedule is packed, but profit margins are flat or negative. The team is exhausted, but the doctor feels behind. Case presentation is inconsistent. Recare is reacted. If you are tired all the time and the bank account does not reflect the stress, you are confusing motion with momentum. And here's something where some of the early successful dentists I met, because every once in a while, you think, okay, well, when I got to school, like if the average office does like 400 or 500 and you did $1 million, I'm talking about $1 million in the 80s and 90s, not $1 million today. And if you were doing $1 million back in 1990, that was a baller practice and you were a rich dentist. You know what I mean?
Probably like doing 2 now.
Yeah. And now dentists say, yeah, I have $1 million practice, but there's 2 doctors in there. So that's $500,000 each. And they're got credit cards. They're using their credit cards. They're not paying off their credit cards each month. And then all of a sudden you walk into an office doing $3 million. Like, how the hell did you get? And he's got like, boats, and he's got cabins, and you can tell. I mean, I remember one time I was in Memphis, the guy had a Rolls Royce. When an endodontist picks you up in Memphis in a Rolls Royce, he's not kidding around. I mean, it's a Rolls Royce. Okay. You can't rent one of those. And, but the bottom line is, they would tell me, they say, well, there's a lot of great consultants out there, and no matter how much money they cost, you always get that money back in that year. And every year, and I bring in a consultant, and, I love doing dentistry, or I love placing implants, or I love doing root canals. But, this lady comes in with her team, and she just keeps the team going. And, so it's you're not working on your prototype. I mean, Sam Walton, him and his wife, Helen, I mean, they worked for their competitors for 20 years before they decided how they were going to do their Walmart differently. And in the first 20 years, they didn't even have 17 locations. They were painfully grinding out their prototype in very small towns because they were afraid to go into a big town in Dallas that had things like J.C. Penney and Woolworth and all these big muscle guys that would kill them. So they would hide in the rural. And it wasn't until they had crawled. But anyway, now Helen and Sam are dead, and they open up 40 new locations a month. So, 20 years thinking about their prototype, 20 years not even getting to 20 locations. And now they open up 40 a month when they're dead, taking a dirt nap at room temperature. So that tells you how much more important systems are than running around like a chicken with your head cut off and being exhausted and going, and the whole team's tired at the end of the day. And yet you're worried about payroll on Friday. Does that make any sense to you? If you were busy all day, exhausted, picking up Easter eggs, you'd have so many damn Easter eggs in a basket, you couldn't eat them all in a week. But you're sitting there doing that in dentistry and you're flat ass broke. So, I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
Well, a wise man once said, money's not what's most important, but it is the scorecard. And I think, to your point, in dentistry, in, the wealthiest nation on earth, if you are just scraping by, if you feel like, you got to balance the books every month, not because you should, but because you need to make sure you can clear payroll, you're doing something wrong. So like the clear markers are, you should be financially rewarded within this career. And if you're not, that means you're not doing it correctly.
Yeah, it means that, someone feels constantly busy but not moving forward. What's usually happening behind the scenes, they have not identified the constraint. Every practice has a bottleneck. It might be doctor time, hygiene capacity, insurance verification, treatment acceptance. If you do not name the constraint, the team attacks symptoms. They work faster, skip lunch, squeeze in more patients. That treats fatigue, but not structure. Again, they're trying to grow and market and advertise. They're trying to do all these things, but they have not worked out their prototype. And you got Sandy Weil, who figured out how every part of Citigroup worked, from clearing the check. He built that company so damn big. And all he did is that little Brooklyn boy just wanted to know how everything worked. And now with like Claude 4.6, a non-programmer could write their practice management software as they identified the tasks they needed to be done. If you ask the owners of Open Dental, like, what is your goal? They would actually tell you. Well, if you have any requests that you want Open Dental to do, we'll do it. We're going to be all things to all people. I mean, if we have 40,000 buttons, then we're only halfway there. There's 200,000 dentists. Every dentist should have their own button. And they just, and the more complex and the more, what Open Dental does have is the right business model. They have a low fee subscription. Because where Delta and Patterson, where Dentrix and Eaglesoft are structurally failed, is they want to sell you a big package, kind of like lasers. The reason there's no successful laser companies in dentistry is because they build you this big laser for $50,000 called an Indy YAG, and they sell 1,000. So you think, wow, they sold 1,000 lasers at $50,000 a piece. This must be the greatest company ever. And the next thing you hear, they're out of business because the first 1,000 they sell 50,000. That's the easiest 1,000, but the next one's going to be harder and harder. And eventually, there's dentists that you cannot sell a laser to at any price. So the deal is that getting the subscription fee. That's the best thing about Open Dental, because now they can schedule. Okay, we can have this many programmers, this many employees, this much. We can go to this many trade shows. They can have a budget. You can't budget when you're selling a one-time. Oh, buy Dentrix, buy Eaglesoft, buy an Indy YAG laser. That's a hard business to do. It's like, that's why dentistry is so lucrative, because you have this every 6 months. Half your clients are coming in. It's that recare is the subscription model. Or how do you lose?
The lifetime value of the patient is way greater than the lifetime value of the dentist for Henry Schein, at least in the product line.
And then the next thing Open Dental could do after they have the superior, the best business model, the second thing they could do is they could get word of mouth referral from other successful people. Like say Sandy Pardue. Imagine if Sandy Pardue had an open dental deal where she could go and close off everything she doesn't use. I mean, until these software companies where you can X out so that your $20 an hour receptionist doesn't open up a screen to 49,000 buttons and is completely overwhelmed. And then she quits her job and goes and works at Marriott and loves it because she opens up her screen. There's only 9 things she has to do. And then management loves this little girl because she always does the 9 things. Because until you get the data on number 7, you can't go to 8. And if you go to 9, it's not going to, you kind of get a dentist that answer the question, well, who may we thank for referring you? There's all your marketing feedback. We can't get that in there because there's 40,000 report generator buttons confusing her. So less is more. And I think that in the Wall Street this year, we've already seen about a $300 billion wipeout of SAS software valuation. They're calling it the SaaS for software as a service, SaaS. They're calling it the SaaS apocalypse. And they're right. I mean, you use Microsoft and you use it for your email and your contacts and your SQL Server. It's so integrated in everything you do. It's a bottleneck. You know what I mean? All these bottlenecks that you're tied into, whether it be Dentrix, Eaglesoft, Open Dental, and what you need to start doing is you need to start doing. The dentist needs to start owning the operations. You can't delegate something you understand. Like if I was seating a crown, you could delegate to your assistant to go polish up the crown after you adjust it because you know how to do that. But you couldn't refer her to go numb a tooth and prep it. I mean you can't delegate shit you don't understand. And all the time you spend on one location and all the details you wrap up and everything you could think of, every decision, is it faster? Is it easier? Is it higher quality? Is it lower cost? Is it scalable? And that's playing with a full hand. And if you're not playing with a full hand, you're just noise and someone's going to come up from behind you and overrun you. And I think that these dentists, they hate their job. They're doing things they don't like to do for money. When you do things you don't like to do for money, you usually end up in drug rehab. You crash. Dentists, they get depressed. They have burnout. And, they say, well, why do dentists have a high suicide rate? Or why are they burned out? Or why do they have so much stress? Because they do shit they don't like to do for money. That's what it is. First of all, why are you doing it? Why are you running around 8 chairs? Why are you running why are you doing money for a loss? And you say, well, my hygienist wanted me to accept this PPO because she says that the teachers have this PPO. Okay, well, have her go do free cleanings at the school on the weekend. Yeah. Does your hygienist go do free cleanings at the school on the weekend? No. Okay, well, why am I doing a cleaning at a loss? I mean, these are just simple questions. And then you want to know why you're burned out and you're not happy.
You certainly hit on something with, at the end of the day, a lot of dentists are doing things they don't want to do for money. And I think that's a reality that a lot of people kind of forget about. But I remember reading somewhere where it's like, when they surveyed dentists and asked them, what is the number one reason you went to dental school or you joined dentistry? The number one reason wasn't to help people. It was financially stable income. And I can't imagine there's any other job where that's got to be, like maybe accountants. I've talked to a few accountants where that's their answer. There's a lot of business, a lot of change, but everyone needs an accountant to help them run their business. To hear that from a dentist, I actually did find that quite surprising. But to your point, it's probably why we see some of the knock-on effects. Going back into what you said before about software and these tools, whether it be Dentrix or even tools like Intivio, I think you're really hitting on something. The expectations have fundamentally changed with how we use tools. For the history of humankind, we have been using tools. It's what distinguishes us from the animal kingdom. And it used to be you had to think of what you wanted to do. You had to think of why you can't do it. You had to think of what you could build to help you do it. You could then build that thing and then use that tool to help you accomplish it. And, that was like the normal forever. And then the internet came along. And there was now this database you could tap into to hear how other people made these tools or gain information about these tools. And, Google became this massive sort of repository of how you could find answers for your questions or, solutions to your problem. And a lot of software is kind of built on that premise of like, we're going to provide you a bunch of tools, and then you can use those tools to get the outcome you're looking for. And I think with AI, there's been a pendulum switch where now AI, you don't ask for the tool, just give me the solution. And I think that's where, if software as a service wants to, be worth anything in 10 years from now, they need to jump the idea of we're making tools delivering services or delivering results. And if you can bridge that gap of, I don't want to text a patient, but to your point, I want to make sure every day I got 3 new patients and every other chair is filled with restorative, preventative, and, major treatments that make me money. If your solution does that thing linearly, like directly, you're going to be really successful. But this day of, we built a tool, we hope you dust it off the shelf every once in a while and you use it. I think people's expectations are just so far beyond that. And we're creating this, this trap. I think at the end of the day, this is going to be good for businesses that evolve and that take this kind of heated warning. And it's going to be challenging for the ones that don't innovate and don't really see the opportunity there. The next question I want to talk about is the exception trap. You talk a lot about how little exceptions for clients or team members slowly create operational drag. In a dental office, this might squeezing in one more patient or bending a payment policy or even customizing a workflow. How do you decide when an exception is worth it? So I know you mentioned earlier the hygienist who wants to take this payment so she can, help teachers and clean their teeth. And it's like, well, that sounds like a good idea until I realize it's a trap that I'm going to be giving away free dentistry and I'm going to pay the person who wants me to do it to give it away, even though they wouldn't be willing to do it for free. Like, how do you kind of weigh these different traps? How do you make sure that you do give patients the experience and the care they want and deserve, but while doing so, secures the longevity of our business? Because we are business owners. Like, that is the uncomfortable truth that a lot of dentists don't want to embrace. Is you are a business owner. You are running a business. You have clients that you call patients. And there's a stewardship requirement that you can't just do everything for everyone, because then you're going to do nothing for everyone. So how do you balance that trap?
If you make the same exception 3 times, it's no longer an exception. It's a broken system. Either formalize it or eliminate it. And it's tough in dentistry because I love dentists. I mean, dentists are helpers. They're not like lawyers. You know what I mean? And they have a lot of compassion, and they have a lot of empathy. They have a lot of compassion. So they take your PPO, they lose money. You came in 15 minutes late for your cleaning, but you're crying, and and they know you have challenges, and it's just so hard for dentists to say no. And that's why I love them, because they're just good people. I mean, I love dentists, and I've been to 50 countries, and I swear to God, no matter what country I've been in, the dentists were all the same. Highly educated, top 5% in education and income, empathy, give the family man, give you the shirt off their back. If you make some exception 3 times, it's not an exception. It's a broken system. Either formalize it, eliminate it. Dentistry attracts helpers. We want to say yes. Compassion is good. Chaos is not. You can bend over backwards for a patient. Just don't bend over. I'll bend over backwards for you, but if I'm going to do your cleaning for free, now I'm bending over. If I'm going to let you come in 15 minutes late every day because you said, well, I have kids. Okay, well, how come the flight attendants that all have kids, they leave for work for 4 days and they don't have a problem with daycare? Okay, they're gone for 4 days. You just can't get here 15 minutes early. If we don't take you after 15 minutes, we don't take you after 15 minutes. You just say, oh, no, sorry, Josh, we'll have to reschedule. I'm sorry. Yeah, don't need to hear your excuse. If you miss 2 appointments, well, you can make a 3rd appointment, but you're going to have to pay for it up front. But the bottom line is less is more. I mean, and the other thing that's weird about dentistry is the price. Like, I can go in there and do a cleaning exam and x-ray, and insurance can give me $100. I can go in there and pull 4 wisdom teeth, and same 1-hour appointment, and insurance getting me $1,000. If I do a molar root canal, it's $1,000. I mean, it's like, how come when I go into the room and get into a flow state? I mean, I love it. You know what I love the most about endo? Endo to me is exactly like a good movie. You know a movie's good when all of a sudden you're shocked and the credits are coming up at the end. And you're just like, wow, man, I was lost. And when I'm doing a molar root canal, you look at the clock. Oh, it's 12. You're doing a molar root canal. And when it's finally finished, you're going to look at the clock and it's going to be 1 o'clock. And you're like, God dang, where did that hour go? I mean, the whole time you're just obsessed in it. Pulling wisdom teeth, the actual pulling of the wisdom teeth is only for like 5 minutes for me. I mean, I don't think I've ever spent 5 minutes, more than 5 minutes pulling 4 wisdom teeth. I mean, yeah, seating the patients, numbing them. But when you get in to actually do the surgery, and I don't like to say this on podcasts because people think I'm crazy, but your tooth can't hang on for a minute. I got assistants doing it with me 30 years of time. I mean, yeah, that's just pure glorious fun. But when you're sitting there looking at the time and you're waiting for this and you're looking at your schedule and you're looking at your watch and I mean, it's just not fun. Well, why are you not having fun and losing money on the deal? Well, if my overhead is $1 a month and I do $1 in dentistry, my overhead's 100%. I still have the same people, but I get to $2 a month. Well, now my overhead's 50%. So dentists try to fight overhead by telling prices set by supply and demand. Like they try to tell $50 hour hygienists that they should work for 25, or they try to tell the electric company they should lower their electric bill, or they try to tell the government they should lower their tax rate, or they try to tell Benco to lower their. I mean, you can't control things you can't control. That's what the Stoics teach you. I mean, don't get mad that the government sucks. The government has always sucked. Don't get mad that there's war. There's always been war. Don't get mad that there's been liars, cheaters, thieves. There's always been all that. But what you can control is what you can control. And you can control your dental office. You can control who works for you, and you don't ever let anyone work for you that you'd rather punch in the face than pay him a $50 bill. Don't work on patients that you don't respect you. Don't work on patients for a loss unless it's charity. And if you're going to do charity, don't do it on rich, fat people who smoke and vape and drink beer in America. Go to a third world country where they actually are stuck. You know what I mean? I love doing charity dentistry in Chiapas or Tanzania. I love doing charity dentistry in Tanzania, but not in Phoenix where your vape costs $38 and you're addicted to $100 a month in weed, and you're telling me that you can't afford to get your teeth clean and you eat out 19 out of 30 meals. That's you're delusional at that point. And what you're asking me to do is bend over and do free dentistry.
We're actually asking someone to enable that behavior, right? Don't stop that behavior. I'm going to enable it by giving you the thing you're forgetting about or avoiding to do because of it for free. And that now means you can keep doing this behavior without the painful consequences of going without dental care. But I think, you hit on something there so true that I just have to, expand on. I think I make a plan that I want to have one-on-ones. So, 15, 20-minute conversations with each of my direct reports once a week. And, one of the things I always kind of constantly tell myself over the last 15 years, if I don't look forward to that meeting, I got to figure out why. And to your point, it can be completely my fault. This person could be perfect. They could be the greatest person. Everyone else loves them. But as the leader of the company, if I don't feel that way about them, if I don't value their contributions, we can't work together. Like it's never going to work. If they don't respect the leadership, they don't respect the vision, what we're looking to accomplish, it's never going to work. And it's funny because people try to logic themselves into making these oh, we have to have hygiene. We have to keep this person. We have to treat this patient, rather than saying, what if we didn't? And I think, you brought on some really good examples of how we could simplify our operations that are actually going to help us grow through subtraction, not through addition. And so often it just takes that discipline, that kind of leadership to spot the problem and then be courageous enough to do something about it.
So you meet with each of your direct reports for 15 minutes a week?
And we meet as a team every day for 15 minutes in addition to that.
Every day for 2 minutes. Okay, so we have a first of week start, all team leaders for an hour. And then we have end of week, or, we say an hour, we block off an hour, but it's usually 30 or 40 minutes. But I walk by, I do those. Yeah, your team is everything. I mean, I have team members that I've paid for their divorces. I've got, when I've been there. I mean, for these people, I've had people been with me 10, 20, 30 years that I just absolutely love. And I love how they love what they're doing and they're good at it. And I know what they're doing and they keep me abreast. So I know what they're doing. I also tell them that the Mack truck theory, that I always tell them, I said, when I hear that you were going through 48th and Elliott and you got ran over by a dump truck, I want to jump up, down, and say, yay, because I know you have a binder that I'm going to give the person who replaces you with everything you do. And that binder, it's kind of like a military plan where they say the first casualty of war is the military plan. True. But the planning gives you advantages of understanding your supply chain.
A nicer way you could say that same story is, if that truck were to hit you, I could take the time to mourn your death because I could pass off your binder to someone else to solve my business, But if you want to celebrate their death.
I like that. Going through your job description, what are you doing? And why do you have a 3-inch binder? I mean, really a 3-inch binder for what you're doing? What's in there that you don't even do?
Let's jump right into that. We talk about fewer metrics and more clarity. In a practice where there are dozens of metrics, production, collections, hygiene, rebooking rates, how do you decide on what numbers actually matter?
Well, for me, it was always, what is the break-even point for today? And nobody's going to lunch until we hit that. And then we're going to come back from lunch and we're going to do it again. And we're going to have 50% overhead. And what I go into, I think the most entitled.
So like $15,000 production day, try to collect 8,000 before lunch, 7,000 in the afternoon.
Yeah, but I think it'd have been a lot easier math if you just would have gone with 10,000 instead of 15,000. I mean, I think you're being a difficult math teacher. Yeah, if you were going to do 10,000 a day, and the thing is, dentists are the most entitled. Like they'll have a cancellation 11 o'clock, and everybody's sitting around the break room, and then someone calls 11:15, says, "Well, I could be there in 30 minutes. I got a toothache," and she's looking at her schedule. Well, we're closed for lunch 12 to 1, and then we don't have any openings tomorrow. So why don't we start looking at tomorrow? And I'm just like, God, what happened to this place? That's why I like the hospitals. It's like, you know what, let's get rid of the phones and just, if you have an emergency, just show up. And that's what I would tell the patients. And I'd say, you know what, if you have an emergency, you never have to call the front desk. And for 30 years, my staff told me, quit saying that. Quit saying that. I mean, maybe they should come down at 2 instead of 1. I said, yeah. And in all that asking for permission, or you guys not doing anything for an hour cancellation, then taking an hour lunch and putting the phones on call. I mean, no, here's what we do. We to open today, to survive, I need $5,000 to pay all the bills. So you're going to come here and we're going to do $5,000. And that's it. You're not, does a fireman get to go to lunch? Does the fireman say, hey, we started putting water on this fire at 8 o'clock and now it's 9:11 and it's noon. So I get an hour off. No, you're a fireman and the house is on fire and you're in a business that if we don't get paid $5,000, we ain't going to survive. So let's do our $5,000 and then we can talk about lunch. I remember a good oral surgeon friend of mine. He told me one day that he realized that he was in a Catholic retreat. I knew him from Creighton, and he did a retreat, and they're asking, "What is all the stress like?" And he realized in a Catholic retreat that all of his stress came from orthodontic surgery cases, and that only 1% of his revenue was orthodontic cases, and mostly he did exodontia implants, and he realized how much stress that was, and he realized, well, why do I have to do that? He just quit doing that. It's the same thing with there's 12 specialties. Really, you mastered implants and bone grafting and Invisalign and veneers and pediatric dentistry and oral path and reading. I mean, guys, you can't master 12 things. You got to find your spot. And it's supply and demand. I mean, if I'm going to fill up potholes, I should walk around and look for a pothole, and then I'll put a shovel of hot asphalt in there, and I'll do a good job and smooth that up. But they go places that they're not needed, and they do services like TMJ that no one asked for, They went to the Pankey Institute for 6 weeks and no one ever even asked them for a full mouth rehab. They get asked for, do you take this insurance? Are you open Saturday? Do you do Invisalign? Whatever they're asking you.
But I think to your point, it's all about where do you want your legacy to end up, and where do you want this thing that you've built over time, you put in the energy, where do you want it to live? And I think every entrepreneur ought to want to live beyond them, to see those core values, to see that impact be more than just a person with an idea, but to be a vision that carried a life of its own. And I think that's, the opportunity you have when you build something special.
So the bottom line is that you want to buy my practice. Well, why do we need to get a bank involved? I'll just carry it. I mean, you can't get 10% money in the bond market. I'll sell you my practice for $100,000, 10% interest, 10 years. I mean, why? Because what I see now is all they want is money. And then I've seen this. I mean, how bad is this when your practice is like 40% of the revenue is implants? And it's a big practice. You sell it for $850,000 in Glendale, and the guy has never placed an implant. So he does everything he knows how he can do. And the first year that he owns it, it goes down to 400, loses money. He's depressed. Everybody's crying. It's just a shithole. It's like, how? I mean, it's a scam. The dentist that sold it to him was a scam. The bank that financed it was probably just dumb and incompetent. The dentist who sold it to him, I think, is an evil asshole. And I really believe that. And he's done it a couple of times. And the bottom line is, owner Carey, he's got skin in the game. So I'm sitting here and you're coming back to Fort Scott, Kansas. In Fort Scott, Kansas, you got to like country music. You got to like a F1 pickup truck. You got to think, there's certain people that aren't going to fly. You pull in there in your little Tesla EV and your solar powered, it might be a different deal, but this person is going to get along with me. He speaks the language. He speaks the staff. He's going to get along. He could treat me. I'm going to carry this to him because if I have a practice that's worth $1 and I sell you that $1, well, I got to pay 20% capital gains and I got to live off that amount. I don't have cash flow. I just got a balance sheet number. But if I finance it to you for 10 years, I got a revenue stream for 10 years and I can add value. Like when you call me up and you say, hey, you remember that guy, Frank, that you did this filling on? And then he said he got allergic to it and he was all, he's all upset. Well, he's just going to come by. When he's going about his daily business, well, how are you doing? Did you retire? Well, I had to. I mean, when I met this young doctor and he could see so much better than me and he learned all the new stuff, I realized it was time to put me out to pasture. In fact, here's his card. Have you seen him yet? Oh my God, these kids, they know so much better. So he's out there talking you up. He's out there getting rid of any upset patients. And then after you finally pay off the practice, now he's got another 10-year because he owns the land and building. So he's like, well, Josh, you've been here for 10 years. You paid off the practice. How about we just extend the payments for another 10 years and I'll sell you the land and building. So now you got a 20-year revenue stream where your identity, even when they retire, if you say, well, what are you? They still say, oh, I'm a dentist. I'm a retired dentist. Well, if you're a retired dentist, why do you still say dentist? I mean, no one ever says to me, I'm a retired machinist. I'm still a machine shop operator. They just say I'm retired. And it's a big part of your identity. I love the dentists who go to the continuing education courses and they haven't seen a patient in 10 years because they just always loved it. And they're as curious as that. It's natural to have curiosity about things you're interested in that are really cool and really bigger than us, like a pyramid or the profession of dentistry.
Well, I think to your point, right, it stands out so much more because these are people that chose dentistry out, in spite of the money, so to speak. And, you see that because after they hang up their coat, so to speak, they're still in the industry. They still want to go to the seminars. They want to, pay it forward the next generation of dentists. And I think that's just such a great thing to see. And that's how you found the right profession for yourself. Now, this was such a great podcast. I want to thank you so much, Howard, today for coming on and sharing some behind the scenes stories about your book. Uncomplicated Business is available everywhere. I listened to it on Audible. Howard actually narrates it, so it's great to get the consistency and to hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. But yeah, I really, really do recommend it. Purely alone on the financial security side of it. It is appalling. I know Howard and myself both know people personally who have been defrauded in dentistry. This is a high revenue, low oversight business. And it is just ripe for fraudulent activity. If you're not going to read the book, even ChatGPT, tell me about the fraudulent stuff in Uncomplicated Business and what can I do to prevent it? And, things like a business of our size, where obviously, we're dealing in 8 figures of revenue. We have third-party auditors coming in. We have a finance team with 2 signatures. But, that's not how most family dentistry is operating. It's still operating that there's one signator. There's one person who can email or call the bank. And, you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your family, you owe it to your patients to make sure you're not a victim of fraud. And I honestly could not double down on how important I think your chapter is because of the practical. This is the 3 things you just need to do to make sure no one's stealing from you. And everyone thinks no one's ever going to steal from you. But I think you said in your book, like 25% of dentists are stolen from. So kind of think that those guys all thought they weren't going to have it too. And just do these things. They're not simple. They're not complex. They don't create long-term inefficiencies. These are just like standard operating procedures that every office needs to be utilizing. And I'm speaking out to it because I've seen the pain and harm that it has intergenerationally in these fraud scenarios and the pain it causes. And I've never seen actually a book speak so candidly and so clearly on like, this is just how you remove, the vast majority of it. The fact that you bring up payment ledgers can be altered after the fact in some PMSs, the dual signatures, taking cash collections. And, there's all these little tips and tricks that the PMSs aren't designed to highlight or bring forth. But you can prevent them with some really, really straightforward best practices. So I want to encourage everyone, if you're in dentistry, if you own a practice, if you want to own a practice, you have to read that chapter. You have to implement it. The cost of not doing it is millions of dollars. And it's so prevalent that if people aren't telling you it's happened to them, it's because they're too ashamed and embarrassed, not because it didn't. So I just want to kind of give you, Howard, the last couple words here on, where people can find you. And yeah, any final thoughts you want to take us away with?
I'm Howard at dentaltown.com. You can always find me at Dentaltown. I always prefer you ask me questions on Dentaltown because if you got the question, 1,000 other people have it. And whenever dentists ask me a question on Dentaltown, it always turns into a big thread because lots of people are having it. But man, I want to thank you for everything you're doing. Congratulations on getting 1 out of 5 oral surgeons to do anything, let alone have. It's hard to get 1 out of 5 oral surgeons to agree that it's Monday. Well, thanks for having me on the show. We'll have to do it again someday.
All right, take care, Howard. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.